First story. I abandoned my son for my new marriage, then forced my son to reconcile, but excluded him from my family Christmas photos. I didn't buy the matching outfits like his step-siblings because he didn't earn his place. He sulked, so I gave him my new husband's old t-shirt to wear, and he abandoned me again, and I'm regretting my actions. I 36F have a 16-year-old son from my previous marriage. His dad and I split when he was 7. It was a very painful, ugly divorce. I won't go into all the details, but yes, I left the marriage first and moved on. I met my current husband 38M not long after, and we've been married for 7 years now. We have 2 sons together, 6 and 4, and he also has 2 kids from his previous relationship, 16 and 14, who live with us part-time, so we're a blended family, a big one, with 4 kids in the house during the week. My son lives full-time with his dad. For a few years after the divorce, things were strained, and I'll admit, I wasn't the most consistent. I was trying to rebuild my life and create stability with my new husband and our home. I only saw my son a couple of times a year, usually during holidays or for short visits. That wasn't ideal, but at the time I didn't feel like I had another option. I've always told him I loved him and wanted a relationship, but it was hard balancing everything. Since last year, things have started to shift. I pushed for more time with him, and he agreed to start coming over on weekends. It wasn't smooth at first. I felt like he came in with a chip on his shoulder, barely said a word to his step-siblings, spent most of the time upstairs or on his phone, and just didn't seem to want to be there. Still, I was trying. I got him a desk for his room here, let him pick out some stuff to make it feel like his space, and tried to invite him into family dinners and outings. But if I'm being honest, it's felt like I've been the only one trying. He always acts like he's being forced to be here. There's always this undercurrent of anger or attitude. If I ask him to help with something, it's eye rolls or silence. He barely acknowledges his little brothers, and he acts like my husband's kids don't even exist. It's uncomfortable for everyone. I've talked to him about making more of an effort, and he says things like, "They're not my family," or "This isn't my home." That's really hurtful. I know I made mistakes early on, but I'm here now. I'm trying, but he acts like it's too late. Anyway, last weekend, we had a Christmas photo session planned. It's something we do every year. I send out holiday cards to both sides of the family, including my parents, siblings, and my husband's relatives. We actually hired a photographer this time and planned matching outfits. A navy blue, cream, and burgundy color scheme. I bought coordinating sweaters for the stepkids and my little boys. I even got props and booked the sunroom with a fake snow backdrop. I didn't get anything for my son to wear because, honestly, I didn't think he'd want to be in it. He hadn't shown any interest in past years, and when I mentioned Christmas pictures earlier in the week, he just shrugged and went back to his phone. He's never been in these family cards since we started them 5 years ago. I didn't plan for him to be in it. It felt like setting everyone up for an awkward photo if he clearly didn't want to be there. The day of the shoot, I asked him if he wanted to come down and be in a few. He asked what he should wear, and I handed him my husband's t-shirt. That was the closest thing we have in his size. It wasn't ideal, but I thought maybe he'd just want to be in a few casual shots if he really wanted to. He got really quiet, then asked why I didn't get him anything to match. I told him I didn't think he'd want to be in them, and also that it wouldn't really make sense. The cards go out to my husband's side too. They're used to seeing our core family. I didn't say this to be mean. I was just trying to be realistic. I even told him, "It's not a big deal. You can be in a few if you want." He got upset and started going off about how the pictures are being sent to my side too, like my parents and his aunts, and that if my stepkids and little boys are in it, why wouldn't he be? I told him again, "It's just easier this way. You come on weekends. It's not the same dynamic." That's when he said, "So you don't see me as part of the family," which really threw me. I tried to explain that it's not about that, but also, in my mind, it kind of is. He hasn't really been a part of this household. He's only started coming again recently. And the truth is, the other kids, my stepkids, and the little ones have been here from the start. They've earned their place in this house. They've built bonds, routines, and memories. It's unfair to just slide someone in for photos when they haven't really been here. I told him, "Why are you making this about you? They're my family. You come for visits." I didn't mean it in a cruel way, but that's how I see it. He visits, he's not living here. He's not in our day-to-day life. You can't expect to get family photos and matching outfits when you barely say 2 words to anyone all weekend. He got really quiet again and went upstairs. I figured he was sulking, but I didn't think much of it. We did the shoot. It came out really nice. The younger boys were laughing. and the photographer got some great candid shots. My stepdaughter even helped with posing everyone. It felt like a real family moment. And yes, I felt a little relief that we didn't have to force awkward energy into the mix. About an hour later, I realized my son was still upstairs and hadn't eaten. I went to check in and found out he had texted his dad to come pick him up. I asked him what he was doing, and he just said, "Dad's already on the way." I felt blindsided because we still had the whole weekend planned. I had already bought groceries for meals, and I had told the younger boys he would help with decorating gingerbread houses the next day. They had been excited about it. They don't get excited about much quietly, they're little. They ask questions. They look forward to things, and I knew they'd be disappointed. I told him he should have talked to me first. He just said he didn't want to be here anymore. That he didn't feel included. That he didn't want to pretend. He said he felt like an extra, like a guest. Like we only remember he exists when it's convenient for us. That stung. Because I have been trying. I've been the one asking him to come. I've been the one trying to make things normal. I've been the one reaching out, trying to get him to talk, trying to get him to build something here. He's the one who checks out every time. I told him he was overreacting, and that it was one picture. One photo shoot. And that he could have been in some of the pictures. We just didn't have matching coordinated stuff for him. But he made it about something bigger. He was clearly spiraling, and instead of trying to talk, he just bailed. My husband suggested we let him have space and talk later. But I didn't want it to become a pattern of running whenever things feel uncomfortable. So I went downstairs to tell my husband what was happening, spiraling. And by the time I stepped outside, his dad was already pulling up. And of course, he had that tone. The hero rescue dad tone. The judgmental look. Like I'm the villain in some play he has already decided the ending of. I told him it was only Friday, and that he couldn't just come pull him out in the middle of a scheduled custody weekend. He said our son texted him that he was upset and excluded, and that he wasn't going to force him to stay somewhere he didn't feel wanted. I said that wasn't fair, because that wasn't what happened. I never said he wasn't wanted. I told both of them that. I said he is wanted here, but building a family takes time and effort on everyone's side, not just mine. You don't get to disappear for years, barely interact when you do visit, refuse to participate, and then demand to be centered. That's not how any household works. His dad argued I was punishing him for struggling to adjust, and I said I wasn't punishing anyone. I was just doing what made sense. The other kids have been living together for years, forming routines and bonds. My son comes in and treats everything like it's temporary, like he's watching from the outside. And I don't know how to fix that if he refuses to engage. My son was standing there the whole time with his arms crossed, staring at the ground. He wouldn't even look at me. I tried to tell him that leaving over this was dramatic and hurtful. I told him I have been trying to fix things for a year now, and every time it feels like he finds a new thing to blow up about. I said I can't keep doing that, trying and getting nowhere. He finally looked up and said, "I didn't blow up, you did." And then just walked to the car. I was so stunned, I couldn't even respond. The way he said it, so calm. Like he had already written me off. Like he just decided I was the problem. End of story. The little boys saw him leaving and started crying, asking why he didn't want to stay. I had to explain to them that he needed time, and it wasn't about them. Which was also unfair, because they didn't do anything wrong. After they left, everything felt ruined. The house was weirdly quiet. My husband tried to comfort me, but I felt embarrassed, angry, hurt. I know how it probably looked. But no one sees the work I've put in, the emotional labor, the attempts, the patience. No one sees the moments where I have to practically drag conversation out of him. The attitude, the shutdown, the walking around here like he's waiting to leave. The next day he sent me a text basically saying he needed space and didn't want to come the next weekend either. I told him that was unfair, and that if he genuinely wanted a relationship with me, leaving every time things get hard isn't how that happens. He left me on read. Then I got a text from my ex telling me I need to reflect on why he felt excluded. As if I haven't spent years trying to repair something that he refuses to even meet me halfway on. As if I'm the only one who needs to reflect. This whole thing blew up bigger than it needed to. It was just a photo. It wasn't like I told him he didn't belong here. I've never said that. But being included in family things doesn't just magically happen because you want it in a heated moment. The other kids have lived this every day. They earned their place in this house. They put in the emotional effort. They built the relationships. That matters. You don't show up once a week and expect everything to revolve around you. I did not exclude him. I gave him the option to join. He didn't like the terms of how, but the effort goes both ways. He left. I didn't push him out. I know people are going to say, just apologize. But apologizing for something I didn't do wrong just teaches him that emotional manipulation works. I'm tired of being the villain when I'm the only one trying. Ada? Comments. Comment 1. YTA. You sound like a manager talking about team dynamics, not a mother. Your son isn't a new hire who needs to earn his place. In a blended household, he's your child. You talk about emotional labor. But where the hell was your emotional labor when you bounced and only saw him once or twice a year for most of his childhood? What you did with that photo shoot wasn't just not planning ahead. It was a loud, clear message that said, you don't belong here. You had time to coordinate outfits for your stepkids. You had a whole planned photographer and everything. You handed your son an old tee and told him to pose like a guest. That's brutal. And then you guilt him for being hurt. For choosing not to sit in a house where his own mother, tells him he's not family because he doesn't live there full time. You're not being honest with yourself. You wanted a clean family image, and he didn't fit it. And now you're mad he noticed. Stop acting like the victim. You weaponized inclusion, and are mad that he refused to play along. Again, YTA. Comment 2. Strong YTA, and not for the reason you think. You didn't forget to include your son. You chose not to. You made that call way in advance. You picked the outfits, you coordinated the image, and you hired the photographer. That doesn't just happen. If your stepkids had matching sweaters, and your son got a random shirt, then you planned that exclusion. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't oversight. It was you making sure the picture looked like the family you wanted to present. What's really gross is how you tried to flip it after telling him he's overreacting, that he's ruining things, and that he always finds something to be mad about. Lady, he's 16. You're the adult. His hurt feelings are valid, even if they're hard to hear. And don't think people can't see through the "he doesn't live here" excuse. Blended families don't work like that. Family is family, weekend or not. You just didn't want to deal with the reality that he doesn't fit the image you curated. So now he left. Because he finally heard you loud and clear. You don't want him in the family photo. And now you don't get him in the family, period. Actions have consequences. YTA. Comment 3. NTA. I'm sorry. But this entire thread is acting like you committed child abuse because you didn't order your teenage son a sweater. People are completely ignoring the context here. You've been rebuilding a relationship with him from scratch. That takes time. That takes energy. And frankly, he hasn't made it easy. The fact that he shows up on weekends and then refuses to engage with your household speaks volumes. He barely interacts with his half-siblings, doesn't try with the stepkids, and isolates himself, and then suddenly he wants to be front and center in a family portrait. That's not how family works. You don't get to opt out emotionally and then throw a tantrum when you're not given a spotlight. I get it, emotions are high, and maybe you could have handled it differently. But you're juggling 4 kids, a blended family, emotional dynamics, and still trying to include a teenager who treats your home like a hotel lobby. That's exhausting. What really pisses me off is how he made you the bad guy for something that was clearly about logistics and vibes, not rejection. And then what? He bails and gets rewarded with validation from his dad. It's emotional blackmail. That's what it is. You didn't exclude him. You made a judgment call. You offered for him to be in some photos. You can't force emotional closeness, especially not in front of a camera. Honestly, you handled this way better than I would have. These people are screaming. He's your son. Forget that he's also old enough to make choices, and he's choosing to stay emotionally distant while blaming you for not bridging the gap fast enough. No. NTA. Update. It's been a few weeks since the Christmas photo situation, and a lot has happened. Some of it has honestly blindsided me, and I'm not handling it well. I thought things would cool down, and eventually my son would come back around like he usually does after going silent for a bit. But this time it's different. He's actually pulled away. The first sign was Christmas. I assumed he would still come. I texted him the day before, reminding him what time we were doing gifts. He just said he was staying with his dad that morning. I told him his brothers were excited to see him, and that this was hurting them. He didn't answer, so we did Christmas without him. The younger boys kept asking when he was getting here. I kept saying later, even though I knew he wasn't coming. They eventually stopped asking. I sent him a picture of the gifts I bought him sitting under the tree to show we didn't forget him. He didn't respond to that either. Then my birthday came. He sent me a one-line text. Happy birthday. Hope it's good. No call. No visit. No emoji. Nothing past that. I tried to reply with something warm, like keeping the door open. But the longer I stared at the message, the more I got angry again. I just left it. And then later, when I calmed down, I realized I should have answered. But by then it had been hours, and answering felt strange, so we just didn't talk. A few days later, I tried to fix things in what I thought was a thoughtful way. I put together a package for him. Snacks I knew he liked. A hoodie I saw at the store that reminded me of something he used to wear. And a framed picture of the Christmas photos, not to be passive-aggressive, but because I genuinely thought maybe having a picture of the house and his brothers would make him feel more connected. I honestly thought it might soften something. I know people here will say that was tone deaf. But at that moment, I believed I was extending something meaningful. He didn't text me. He didn't call. He didn't say thank you. But his dad did. He sent a long message saying I was being cruel and emotionally manipulative by sending a photo he was excluded from. That I was rubbing it in. I told him that was absolutely not my intent. He told me intent doesn't matter when harm is already done. That one actually got to me. Because I felt misunderstood, but also because part of me knows he's not wrong. The situation didn't stay contained. The relatives got involved. My sister called first, asking why my son wasn't in the Christmas card. I told her he didn't feel like participating. I said, casually, "You know how teenagers are." I tried to make it light, tried to make it sound like a mood issue. But then she asked, "Did you ask him to be in it?" And I paused too long. She noticed. I could hear it in her voice shift, that quiet judgment. Then my mom asked. Then my aunt. Same questions. Same pause. Same judgment. I didn't lie to be malicious. I lied because I didn't want to have that conversation. I didn't want to say. I planned a family image, and he didn't fit into the picture I was trying to present. Because saying it out loud makes it real. Things escalated at home too. My husband, who had always said he supported my parenting choices, finally admitted he felt uncomfortable with how I handled the situation. He said, "I feel like you left him out, and now you're upset that he reacted to being left out." Hearing that from him felt like a slap, like he was taking sides. I snapped at him. I told him he didn't understand the history, the abandonment I felt after the divorce, or the way I had to rebuild my life while dealing with guilt and pressure and judgment. I told him he hasn't lived the years of silence my son gave me. He told me that even if all of that is true, it doesn't change that my son is the child, and I'm the adult, and I'm the one who sets the emotional tone. We didn't speak much the rest of the night. Later, when I was alone, I realized something I've been avoiding for a long time. My husband has a stable, clear relationship with his kids. I'm the one who has to rebuild mine. And I haven't been handling that responsibility well. My son hasn't visited since. It's been almost a month. The younger boys ask less now. My stepson doesn't mention him at all. The house is fine. Functional. We do school drop-offs, make dinners, watch shows, and go to bed. Life hasn't fallen apart externally. But something in the middle of it feels wrong. There's a gap. A missing piece. And now that I'm forced to look at it, I can't unsee it. I keep replaying the photo day. Not the fight, but the moment before. Everyone standing there in matching coordinated clothes. Camera set up. The house is decorated. The little boy is smiling. My stepdaughter laughing. The picture looked perfect. And my son was upstairs. Alone in a room that is technically his, but never actually felt like his. I told myself he needed to earn his place. But I'm realizing now that he was never given the same starting point to earn from. He didn't grow up in this house. He didn't get the daily routines. He didn't get the quiet bonding moments. And I acted like that was his fault. He didn't leave the family. I did. And I've been trying to fix the story instead of fixing the relationship. I don't know how to fix this now. I want to apologize, but I don't want to make it about me again. I want him to come back, but I don't want to pressure him. I want to show him he's part of this family, but I don't know how to do that without him thinking I'm just trying again because I'm scared of losing him. I know people on here will say therapy. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the only answer. But right now, it's just quiet. And the quiet is starting to feel like consequences. I don't want to lose my son. I don't think I ever stopped wanting him. I just didn't know how to hold him and build another life at the same time. Now I'm afraid I'm realizing that too late. Comments. Comment 1. You know what stood out the most in this update? The fact that your husband only now admitted he was uncomfortable with how you treated your son. That tells me something else. You're not really communicating with anyone. Not your son, not your ex, not even your current partner. You wanted validation, not conversation. That's why the people around you are finally speaking up now, because you never gave them the space to say anything earlier. You were too busy trying to maintain control of the narrative. Your husband stayed quiet to keep the peace. But now it's biting you in the arse, because he clearly doesn't fully support how you handled things. That's a crack in your marriage, OP. Don't ignore that. You're not just at risk of losing your son. You're risking your marriage too, if you keep pretending this is a one-sided tragedy. Everyone around you has been swallowing discomfort for years. The only difference now is your son finally said, enough. Comment 2. There's something really brutal about how you describe your household. Everything is structured around who earned their place, like it's some tiered system. Your stepson is the oldest now. Your younger kids deserve the bonding, and your actual son gets scraps. Let's be real, you didn't just forget to include him. You ranked him. You made him feel like an intruder in a house that used to be his by default. And then you tried to play the victim when he finally called you out. Not by yelling or lashing out, but just leaving. He removed himself from a space that told him repeatedly, you're optional. And now you're shocked that he's gone silent. This wasn't about Christmas. This was about 10 years of knowing there was always going to be someone else more central to your life than him. You can't undo that with a care package and a hoodie. You've got years of repair work ahead if he even wants to open that door again. Comment 3. What hit me hard was when you said he didn't leave the family. You did. That's probably the only truly self-aware thing you've written. Because yeah, you did leave. And while I get that you were trying to survive and rebuild, the truth is, you checked out of his world and fully checked into a new one. A kid doesn't forget that. A kid remembers who sat next to them at school concerts, who showed up at parent-teacher night, and who helped with projects. And if that person disappears and reappears a decade later with a photographer and matching sweaters, it doesn't feel like love, it feels like PR. You can want to be a good mom and still F up monumentally. Both can be true. But the apology has to be real. No guilt trips, no, I tried. Just, I failed. And I'm sorry. Right now, he's showing you what boundaries look like. You should respect that, not take it as punishment. Because if you ever want to be part of his family again, the next steps are going to be on his terms, not yours. Update. I don't really know how to structure this because everything feels scattered. And I feel like I keep trying things without actually thinking through any of them. I keep telling myself I'm trying, but it's like I'm just reacting, not planning. My head's a mess, and it feels like every step I take makes things worse. I don't know what the right thing is anymore. After the Christmas situation, the silence from my son stretched long. I kept waiting for some kind of shift. I thought maybe if I just invited him to something casual, something light, maybe we could get past the tension without needing to sit down and dissect everything. So I planned a family outing. Nothing dramatic. Just something we used to do when he was younger, the aquarium. The younger boys were excited. My stepkids were fine with it. And I thought maybe he'd see it as nostalgic, familiar, or something neutral. I didn't ask him if he wanted to go. I just texted him the time and told him I'd pick him up. I thought taking the pressure off of making it a choice would help. I thought if I acted normal, maybe things could start to feel normal again. He didn't respond at all. I kept checking my phone every few minutes, trying not to look obvious. I tried to pretend I wasn't waiting, but he didn't reply. The next morning came, and he still didn't, so we went without him. I tried to enjoy it, but the whole time I was hyper-aware of the empty seat next to me. When we got home, there was an email from him. I saw the notification, and my stomach dropped because I just knew. It was long. It wasn't dramatic or angry. It was almost too calm. He wrote about the divorce, the silent years, the weekends, the feeling of walking through the house like a guest, the Christmas photo. He said he realized that every time he came here, he felt like he was stepping into a place where his presence needed to be managed, not welcomed. He said it felt like the house had a rhythm, and he was always disrupting it. And instead of anyone helping him adjust, everyone just tolerated him on the edge. He wrote, I don't want to have to earn being your son. I didn't know how to respond. Everything I thought I would say sounded defensive, and I could hear how it would read, so I didn't respond. I told myself I needed time to think so I wouldn't make it worse. But now it's been days, and not responding probably made it worse anyway. I feel frozen, and I know how that looks. In the middle of all this, my husband finally confronted me directly. We were in the kitchen after the kids went to bed, and he just said, I think you need to stop trying to make this happen on your timeline. I got angry. I told him I was trying to repair damage that no one helped me carry for years. He said, I know the divorce hurt you too. But you can't keep punishing him for not healing the same way you did. I didn't have anything to say after that. I ended up crying, which I hate doing in front of people because it feels weak and messy. He didn't hug me or comfort me. He just stood there. Not cold, just waiting. Like he was tired of watching me spin myself in circles. That hurt more than yelling would have. I decided maybe I needed to talk to someone, so I booked a therapy appointment. I honestly went in there expecting her to tell me I was overwhelmed and stretched thin, and that things were complicated and I was doing my best. I needed someone to tell me that I wasn't failing as badly as it feels like I am. She didn't say that. She didn't even hint at that. She asked me why I thought my son should be the one to adapt first. Why I expected him to be emotionally open in a house where he felt like a guest. Why I kept saying, I've been trying, when almost everything I've done has been reactive, last minute, or image-based. I got defensive and told her that was unfair. She said, so why did you bring the Christmas photo to his room? I didn't have an answer. Not one that didn't make me sound cruel. I didn't go back for the next appointment. I know I should have. But sitting there felt like being held under a spotlight, and I couldn't stand it. And then came the final hit. My ex called. He said our son wants to formally stop the weekend arrangement. He said our son will reach out when he's ready in his own way. But he doesn't want the scheduled visits anymore. I didn't even know what to say. My ex wasn't gloating. He wasn't angry. He sounded tired. I said, so he's cutting me off. And he just hung up the call. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do now. I don't know what step comes after this. I don't know if there is one. Everything feels really, really quiet. And I don't think this quiet is temporary anymore. Comment 1. Op. I'm saying this bluntly because sugarcoating won't help. You didn't go to therapy to get better, you went to feel better. And the second your therapist didn't feed your narrative, you bailed. That tells me you're still not ready to deal with the actual damage you caused. You had a son who was already fragile around you. Then you threw him a message loud and clear. You don't belong in this family photo. You're not part of the image. And after that, every single thing you did was about damage control, not real connection. Sending him a photo he wasn't in. Not thoughtful. That's emotional shrapnel. Planning an outing, and not even asking him, just telling him when to show up. That's not inclusion, that's control. Now he's done, and instead of sitting in that pain and doing the work, you're flailing and calling it effort. But none of this is repair. It's panic. You don't need someone to tell you you're trying. You need someone to hold up a mirror and ask why your version of trying keeps wounding your kid. Comment 2. You keep circling around the photo shoot like it was the inciting incident. But to your son, that was just the final straw. The moment that confirmed everything he already felt, that he's the footnote in your new life. He was never going to be part of that photo. Not because of logistics or timing or matching outfits. But because in your head, he's not part of that story. You moved on. You wrote a new script with a new cast. And now you're confused why the original character doesn't want to show up for cameos. The most painful thing here isn't that you F'd up. It's that you still don't fully understand how deeply you F'd up. You're not evil. You're not abusive. But you are careless in a way that left permanent damage. And the more you chase quick fixes, the more you prove to him that you still don't see him, not really. Comment 3. Look, everyone's focused on your son rightfully. But can we talk about your marriage for a second? Your husband is starting to check out emotionally. And you're either missing it or pretending it's not happening. He called you out gently. You got defensive. He watched you spiral and didn't engage. That's not indifference, that's fatigue. You've dragged your emotional chaos into every relationship you've had. You blew up your first marriage. Now your second is cracking because instead of owning your part in the mess, you keep framing yourself as the misunderstood one. Your stepson's probably watching this happen too. Don't be shocked if he starts pulling away next. You're losing people, OP, and it's not because they're cruel or ungrateful. It's because you keep mistaking control for connection, and they're effing exhausted. You still have time to fix things, but not if you keep running from the hard stuff. Sit in your own SHT for once. That's the only way any of this gets better. Second story. I went through my husband's notebooks and found out he has a whole other life. He didn't cheat, but that would be lighter compared to this. Okay? When I say his stuff, I don't mean that we cordoned off areas that the other partner isn't allowed to go through. It's more like a natural evolution that things like papers, notebooks, etc. just end up piling up in a specific area. The reason I don't go through them is just because there is nothing I need from them. Today was different. I needed his mini screwdriver set, and I knew it was in his office somewhere. I had texted him beforehand, and he couldn't remember exactly where he had put them. So he said, just look around. So I eventually find them on his bookshelf. And as I'm picking them up, I see a piece of paper sticking out from one of the notebooks with my name in his handwriting. My first thought is, oh, this must be something he forgot to give me. Let me take it. What it was a list of different things I had said to him over the last few months. Things like, I love you. I love the way you smell. And, don't go. The bed is colder without you here. Things I just said off without thinking. He had written down and dated with the estimated time. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to go through the notebook I had found this piece of paper sticking out of. Turns out the notebook was a sketchbook, and he had drawn images of me in various poses, like drinking coffee on the couch, while reading, sleeping, staring out the window, and laughing. When I say images of me, I mean really romanticized images of me, because I don't even look that way on a good day, and believe me, I don't have many good days. The thing is, I've never seen him pick up a pencil. I didn't even know he could draw. I've never seen him draw, especially not anything of me. But there it was. In the sketchpad were also all these loose papers. Ideas for books, games, theories on the afterlife, reflections about life, society, romance, and freaking time-space relativity. Drafts for short stories. Fully composed songs, with lyrics and music. A list of things that made me happy and things that made me sad. Special notes about traumatic events I had experienced in my life, so he wouldn't forget. Notes about things we did together. It was amazing and fascinating and enthralling and, most of all, sad. Because I didn't know any of this about him. Despite how long we've been together, I find it difficult to get him to open up. Whenever I've tried to find out anything about him, he deflects it back to me. Try to find out what he wants to do. He wants to do what I want to do. I knew nothing about this part of his life, and not from lack of trying. It's like I found out my husband has been living a double life, and I'm seriously wishing it was with another person. Because this hurts. I don't know why it hurts, but it does. Badly. I've put all the notes and drawings back. Tidied up. And I don't know what to do. I feel like if I ask him about it, he'll try drawing back deeper into his shell. Might even stop himself from doing any of this, just in case I find it again. But I don't know if I can pretend that I don't know what I now know. TLDR. Found out my husband isn't who I thought he was. Update. I talked to my husband about this. He was not happy that I posted this online before talking to him first. As punishment, I need to inform you all that I am the most dramatic drama queen that ever queened over drama. But we sorted a lot of things out. 99% of it was just because of communication. Agreeing past each other, as he puts it. He's also asked me to clear a few things up. It's not his office. It's the office that he just mostly uses. Likewise, it's the bookcase. He wants to make sure it's understood that there is nowhere in our home that either of us doesn't feel welcome. If he really didn't want me to read those notebooks, he would have asked me not to. It is not my responsibility to figure out what is and isn't off limits. That's the point of communication. Also, if he really wanted to hide them from me without me knowing, he could think of better places to put them than between World War Z and the Sandman Omnibus on our bookshelf. He just never thought they would be interesting to me. He wasn't ashamed or trying to hide a part of himself. He just honestly thought that those things were uninteresting. He realizes now that by doing that, it does seem like he doesn't want to share his life with me. He always thought that when I was trying to get to know him better, or find out more about his life or his interests, I was just being polite. To those who said he has no obligation to share every part of his life, which is different from sharing none of his life with me. And even that is bullshit, because if he didn't want to share his whole life with me, why did we get married? A lot of you said, invasion of privacy. But what if instead of something loving, there was something sinister like ways to murder a spouse and make it look like an accident? Would you have still said that? Refusing to investigate further into something that involves you because you might violate your partner's trust is denial at best, ignorance at worst. Some of you have an idealized way of how you think relationships should work. Some of you have never been in a relationship. Some of you should never be in a relationship. Not dismissing the idea of a counselor, just think it's a bit extreme. In this situation, it was because of communication. Just because you hear hoofbeats, don't automatically think zebras. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.